Welcome to this edition of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield as Aaron Bertels is joining us today with Crossroads Marketing. Lots of things that we're going to be looking at in this trade. No surprise, corn had a little bit of a hiccup midweek, and we'll find out as we head into the WASDE report what this all has to do with it. And then also, no surprise, China and its effects on the soybean market. Big things to watch out. Frustrating for producers. They try to get this crop out of the ground. As we know, Mother Nature's been too nice for some of the folks. Aaron, let's start there. We know that harvest has had its ups and downs. Unfortunately, some white stuff across the upper Midwest has really caused for some harvest concerns.
Yeah, I'm sure people won't want to hear this. It's not the slowest harvest, but it is obviously well off of normal pace. And so it's just going to take some time here to find some dry corn, get stuff up off the ground. We talked about this a long time ago, that this might be one thing that could get the market going, is that we were just going to have a slow harvest. It hasn't really done that, but the slow harvest part has held true.
So what's the reason for the new lows that we saw in the corn market on a Thursday?
I think people are just getting positioned for this report tomorrow. Funds seem to want to be sellers before this report. And if you think about it, if they believe the crop is here, if you believe some of these numbers we've seen recently, believe the acres won't change, then demand's certainly not something you're looking at and thinking that we're in trouble from a supply standpoint, right? I mean, you've got ethanol that's 200 to 250 million bushels behind the expected pace for this year. Exports are well behind, haven't really shown much life. Even today, we're just kind of in the middle of the range. So if you're somebody that believes the crop's here, this does look like a seller's market, because you are at seasonally pretty decent prices for this time of year.
Well, last month, or maybe a month and a half ago, they said they were going to be resurveying the acres in the Dakotas, Minnesota. Did they get it done? I
think they got it done. I just wonder, with how slow it's been up there, how good that information is really going to be at this point. I mean, there's got to be a lot of people that don't have much done yet, and they're getting asked this question: how much are you going to get done? How do you know? It's some of this stuff may get done, some of it may not. You're going to try to get as much done as you possibly can, but resurveying at this point, with how slow this has been, may not be worth the effort up to this point. And I think acres are going to be a tough one tomorrow to expect to be real friendly, just because I don't know, with how late this has been, if they're going to have the information that they'd want to really change that number. I could be surprised, but I look for acres to be something more of an impact in the January report as you get through this slow harvest and have more information for that time.
China and soybeans have kind of been on a yo-yo, and it just continues.
Yeah, as we talked before, you're just kind of numb to this stuff at this point. It's hard to get too excited about information one way or the other, because you just don't know what's coming next. And it seems like you get something like yesterday where you're in the day session and it's negative. You get the date moved back, you had all these expectations, and then before you even get in the morning, there's more news that they've agreed on getting rid of some of the tariffs, which is how this whole thing started, and has been a sticking point with the Chinese as we've been through this process. But it's just hard to get too excited about any information you get at this point until something's in ink. The trade does seem to fluctuate based upon this news, which is surprising to me at this point, with how many times we've been disappointed. But until you get something signed, it's going to be hard to get any real big moves out of that.
Are we going to see any pickup when it comes to exports, corn or beans at this point?
I think beans are in their phase right now where this is the time that you get busy there. And we've seen that, right? Even without a deal done, China has increased their buying. We had a very good month in September of exports. And this is seasonally the time of the year that we should see that, because South America is starting to run out. It's the same for corn. You would hope that you would see some more pickup here. The big problem for corn too, though, is that we've got huge competition now. We've got much more competition than we've had in the last few years. You had, between Brazil, Argentina, and the Ukraine, you produced about 52% more corn than you did last year. And so you've had a lot of export competition out there.
Makes you wonder what 2020 is going to bring with crop production as these guys sit in the combines starting to think about having to make seed purchases for next year.
I've already had questions, about what do we do for next year? And it's a fair question. There's so many things to be answered between now and then. You saw the huge numbers come out for what they expect for 2020 for corn carryout, and then the discrepancy for what they expect with bean carryout. And it's a lot of unanswered questions. You got South America still to come. What are they going to plant? What's their production going to be? What's our price going to be by the time people will have to come around to actually making that decision? So a lot of unanswered questions.
And we'll, of course, get some of those answers as the WASDE report comes out at 11 o'clock. That's this week's version of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield.